The capture. The cage was cold, the floor was metal, the walls were tall, the lights above were bright and white. It smelled like oil and machines. Inside the cage, a tiny alien girl sat, knees to her chest, shaking in fear. Her name was Leary. She was only 1 foot tall. Her skin was soft green. She had big glowing eyes and 2 thin antennae on her head. On her home planet, she lived in a forest full of trees, light, and music. But now, she was alone. And she was sure of one thing. Humans were monsters. Leary had been captured 3 days ago. She had been walking near a mining field when a loud machine landed from the sky. Humans had jumped out. She had tried to run, but something zapped her. She woke up here. In a strange place made of metal and noise, she had seen a human once, just for a second. He was tall. His face was rough. His eyes looked sharp. His voice sounded like thunder. She had screamed and hidden under a cloth. Now she waited. Maybe they would eat her. Maybe they would cut her open. That's what the old stories said. Humans eat little creatures. Humans trap and test and torture. Humans smile when they lie. The door hissed open. Leary jumped. Footsteps echoed in the hall, heavy ones, slow, getting closer. She curled tighter in the corner of the cage, eyes wide. Then the human entered. He was tall, 20 times her size. He wore a gray jacket, dark boots, and gloves. His hair was short and messy. A small beard covered his face. He didn't speak at first. He just stood there and stared at her. Leary stared back. Her heart was pounding. She screamed, "Please don't. Eat me." The man blinked. He tilted his head. Then he slowly crouched down and looked at her through the bars. His voice was soft, not loud like before. "Eat you?" Leary covered her face. "Please, I'm small and not tasty. I'm full of leaves and air. Please find something else." The human said nothing for a moment. Then he laughed, but not a mean laugh. It sounded surprised. "Oh," he said, smiling a little. "I think we have a misunderstanding." Leary peeked through her fingers. He reached into his jacket. Leary screamed again. "No needles, no hot sauce." But he pulled out a small pack of food. He slid it into the cage. Through a slot, it was warm, it smelled sweet. Leary froze. "You want me to eat?" she asked. He nodded. "You look hungry." She didn't trust him. But her stomach growled. Carefully, she walked to the food, sniffed it, and took a tiny bite. Her eyes lit up. It tasted like honey and warm berries. She ate more. The human sat down on the floor, crossing his legs. He pulled out a small device and tapped it. Then he spoke slowly. "My name is Jake." Leary blinked. "Jake?" He nodded. He held up the device. "Translator," he said. "You understand now?" Leary tilted her head. "A little." Jake smiled. "Good. I want to talk." Leary stayed near the corner, still unsure. "Why? Am I here?" she asked. Jake looked serious. "You were found near a mining zone, brought here for study. I work here." "Are you the one who captured me?" He shook his head. "No, I fix machines. Not cages." "Then, will you let me go?" Jake looked down. "I don't have the power, but I can help." Leary narrowed her eyes. "Why would you help a tiny creature like me?" Jake looked at her gently. "Because I don't like seeing anyone afraid." For the first time, Leary didn't feel like she was about to die. She still didn't trust him. But maybe not all humans were monsters. Still, she whispered, "If I disappear, my people will come, they'll burn your buildings." Jake smiled. "If I hurt you, I deserve it." She looked confused. He stood up. "I'll be back tomorrow. More food, more talking." Then he turned and left. The door closed. The room was quiet again. Leary sat on the floor holding the warm food in her hands. She looked at the slot he had used to pass it through. Then she looked at the door and whispered, "Maybe, just maybe, he's not a monster." The mistake. Leary waited until the lights dimmed. That was the signal. Nighttime at the human base. The large room where she was kept became dark and quiet. No footsteps, no alarms, just the soft hum of machines. She had been there for 5 days now. Jake had returned every day with warm food and kind words. He gave her water. He didn't yell. He didn't poke her. He never even touched her. But still, Leary was scared, because kindness could be a trap. Her elders had told her, a human smile is a trick. So that night she made a decision. She would escape. Leary had watched the room carefully. In the corner near the ceiling, she saw something interesting. An old vent. The panel was loose. She had tiny hands. She could fit. She waited for the right moment. Then she climbed up her cage using her blanket as a rope. Her small body slipped between the bars. She moved quickly and quietly, using her claws to climb the metal wall. The vent was dusty. It smelled like rust. She pushed the panel open and crawled inside, free, almost. She moved through the narrow vent, heart racing. Every little sound made her jump. A clicking pipe, a wind whistle, a faraway door. Her eyes adjusted to the dark. She didn't know where she was going, but she just wanted to be away. Then she slipped. A panel gave way beneath her. She screamed and fell out, right into someone's shoe. Ah! Leary yelled and kicked. Ah! The human yelled too. Jake! He looked down in shock. Leary? She scrambled out of his shoe and ran, hiding behind a table leg. Her tiny chest rose and fell fast. Jake dropped to one knee. What are you doing out here? You okay? She shouted, Don't trap me again. He didn't move. I'm not going to trap you, he said softly. She peeked around the corner. But you caught me. I didn't know you were planning to escape. He said, I was just fixing the lights. She blinked. You weren't looking for me? Jake shook his head. No, but I'm glad I found you before someone else did. He reached out his hand. She flinched. He pulled his hand back. Sorry, they stayed quiet for a while. Then Leary stepped out slowly. I thought you were nice. But I was wrong. You're a human. Humans always lie. Jake sat cross-legged on the floor. Not always. And I haven't lied to you once. She looked down. I don't want to go back to the cage. Jake nodded. I won't put you back in the cage, he said. I promise. Her eyes widened. But it's against your rules, Jake sighed. Maybe some rules should be broken. He stood up and reached into his pocket. He pulled out something small, a metal pin. He placed it on the floor and pressed a button. The pin unfolded into a tiny chair with a soft seat and a light blanket. For you, he said. Leary stared at it. Gift? He nodded. You're not a prisoner anymore. You're a guest. Her lips trembled. No one had ever called her that before. Later, they sat in his workspace. Jake drank from a metal cup. Leary sipped from a bottle cap filled with juice. So? Jake asked. Why did you think I'd eat you? Leary looked away. We were taught that humans eat small creatures. Jake laughed. Well, we eat meat, but not talking, glowing, intelligent people. She blinked. You mean there are humans who eat no meat? Jake nodded. Lots. They eat plants only. Leary smiled. We would like those humans. Before going to sleep, Leary asked Jake one more question. If you had found me in the wild, would you still be kind? Jake didn't speak for a moment. Then, he said, yes, I don't need a lab to see someone needs help. Leary looked at the small chair beside his workbench, and for the first time, she felt safe. But far above the lab, in a different room, 2 scientists stared at a screen. One of them frowned. Subject 4 has escaped her enclosure. The other tapped the keyboard. She's with the human engineer now, and he's not reporting it. The man narrowed his eyes. Time to watch him more closely. Human things are weird. The next morning, Leary woke up in her tiny chair. She stretched her arms, yawned softly, and looked around. The cage was gone. The room felt bigger now, not because the walls had changed, but because she was no longer afraid. She spotted Jake at his desk working on a small drone. Sparks flew as he used a laser tool. He looked over his shoulder and smiled. "Good morning," Leary rubbed her eyes. "Humans wake up too early," Jake laughed. "This is late for me." After breakfast, Leary eating fruit jelly from a spoon and Jake drinking black coffee, they sat together near the window. Jake said, "I think it's time you learn about human life." Leary tilted her head. "Will it be scary?" Jake grinned. "Maybe, but mostly weird." Leary crossed her arms. "I'm ready." Lesson 1. Human food is strange. Jake placed a plate on the table. It had a slice of pizza, a burger, and something brown with cream on top. Leary sniffed it all. "The smells are loud." Jake chuckled. "That's called seasoning," she poked. "The pizza." "Why is the bread angry?" Jake laughed again. "That's just melted cheese." She tasted a small crumb, then coughed. "Spicy, it attacks my tongue." Jake handed her milk. "Okay, we'll skip the spicy stuff." She looked at the brown dessert. "This smells safe." "One bite," Jake said. She took a nibble of the brownie, and her eyes lit up. "This is magic." Lesson 2. Human music is confusing. Later, Jake played a song on his old music player. A loud drum beat shook the floor. Leary screamed and dove into his coffee mug. Jake quickly turned it down. "Sorry, that was rock," she peeked out. "Rock music is loud," Jake nodded. "Let's try something softer." He switched to a slow, calming tune. Leary blinked, then slowly swayed left and right. Jake smiled. "You like this one?" She nodded. "It makes my antenna dance." Lesson 3. Human clothes are complicated. Leary spotted Jake's laundry basket. She climbed in and popped her head through one of his socks. Jake walked in and froze. She waved. "I am a warm worm." He burst out laughing. She pulled the sock over her head like a cloak. "I wear your battle armor now," she declared proudly. Jake was crying from laughter. "That's not armor, that's unwashed." She dropped the sock instantly and jumped out. "Ew." As the day passed, Leary laughed more than she had in her whole life. Jake showed her how to turn screws, build small bots, and draw with a glowing pen. They played music, shared stories, and even built a small glider she could sit on. Leary sat on his shoulder and watched the stars outside the window. "Jake," she said softly, "you are not a monster." He looked at her. "Thanks," he said. "You're not so tiny and scary yourself." She smiled. "I thought humans only destroy, but maybe you fix too." But not everyone was smiling. In the control room above, 2 security officers were watching a live camera feed. "Subject 4 is fully outside the cage now," one said. "And the engineer?" asked the other. "He's treating her like a guest." They paused. Then one spoke. "Shall we alert the commander?" "No, not yet. Let's see where this goes." The screen zoomed in on Leary laughing. That night, as Jake got ready to sleep, Leary sat on the windowsill. The stars twinkled above the metal walls. She thought of her home forest, the songs of her people, the warnings from the elders. Never trust humans. But now she wasn't sure. Jake had fed her, protected her, laughed with her. Maybe humans weren't monsters. Maybe they were just weird. And sometimes weird was wonderful. The tiny truth. The lights were dim. Everyone in the research station was asleep, except Leary. She sat on the edge of Jake's desk, looking at the stars through the window. Her small hands hugged her knees. She couldn't sleep. Something felt strange tonight. Jake was sleeping in his chair, head tilted, arms crossed. Soft snores filled the room. Leary stood up quietly. She looked at the door. Something pulled her too, as she tiptoed down the hallway, her feet making no sound. The night shift lights were soft blue. The hallway was cold and quiet. She remembered a room she had seen before, a door Jake never let her near. He said it was classified, but she was small and curious. She reached the locked door and climbed into the wall panel beside it. Using the tiny path between wires, she slipped through a vent and dropped quietly inside the dark room. The room was full of screens. Soft red lights blinked. Files and folders glowed on digital displays. She walked across the table, scanning the labels. Subject 004. Leary status. Unstable. To be terminated. Leary froze. Her heart pounded. She tapped the screen again. A video opened. A human voice spoke. The tiny alien, Subject 004, continues to show unpredictable behavior. Despite no harm, we classify her as a potential biorisk. Recommend removal in 3 days if no test results are approved. Leary's tiny body shook. They weren't studying her. They were planning to erase her. She turned to leave, but her foot hit a glass pen. It rolled off the table and crashed to the floor. An alarm chirped. Footsteps echoed outside. Leary gasped and ran. She dove into a vent just as the door opened. 2 security guards entered with flashlights. Motion sensor tripped. Could be the alien. She's not in her room? Nope, that human's in trouble if he's hiding her. Leary crawled through the dark vent as fast as she could. She reached Jake's room and jumped down onto the desk. Jake woke up, rubbing his eyes. Leary. She ran into his hands, trembling. They want to erase me. What? She pointed to the vent. Secret room. Files. I saw it. Jake stood quickly. His face changed. No more jokes. No more sleep. Just focus. Tell me everything, he said. After hearing her story, Jake stood in silence for a long moment. Then he walked to the wall, grabbed his datapad, and connected to the station's private network. He searched and found it. Subject 004. Alien observation termination request. Pending. Jake slammed the pad on the table. I trusted them, he said quietly. I really did. Leary sat on his shoulder. What do we do? He looked at her. We run. He opened a drawer and pulled out a small case. Inside was a folded escape pod chip, a tiny flying pod used for emergency launches. He had been fixing one in secret, just in case. He grabbed Leary's backpack and filled it with food, a translator, a tiny map, and a necklace he made for her, a wire loop with a glowing chip. She stared at it. For me? Jake nodded. So you don't forget me. If we get separated. Leary clutched it tight. But I don't want to leave you. Jake smiled, sadly. And I don't want to lose you. But if they find out you saw the file, they'll move faster. The lights outside turned red. A loudspeaker echoed through the station. Security alert. Subject 004 missing. All personnel report. Jake grabbed his bag. It's time. They ran through the back tunnels of the base. Leary hid in Jake's pocket, peeking out to watch the path. The tiny escape ship was docked near the side hangar. Jake had hidden it under scrap and boxes. But guards were nearby. Too many. Jake whispered, New plan. We wait for the shift to change, then I boost the door and you fly. What about you? I'll stall them. No. Leary grabbed his shirt. You'll get caught. Jake looked down at her. I don't care, as long as you get away. Her eyes filled with tears. Please, she said. Don't be a hero, he smiled. I'm not. I'm your friend. The escape plan. Red lights flashed across the hallway walls. Sirens howled. Security alert. Subject 004 is missing. Suspect, human engineer Jake Rivers. Jake and Leary stood in a shadowed corner near the back hangar. Their small escape ship was hidden just behind a wall of crates. Leary peeked out from his jacket pocket. 3 guards, 2 at the door, 1 patrolling. Jake checked his wrist screen. We've got 5 minutes until shift change, then one of them leaves. Leary's small hands clenched. You don't have to do this for me. Jake looked down at her. Leary, I'm not doing this for you. She blinked, confused. I'm doing this with you, he said. Because I believe in you. Her eyes shined. Okay, then let's fly. Jake. counted under his breath. 3, 2, 1. He threw a small EMP grenade across the floor. It buzzed, and the lights shorted out. What was that? Lights are down. The guards looked away, and that's when Jake ran. He pushed a crate hard, crashing it into the patrol guard. Leary jumped from his pocket and slipped under the gate controls. Using her tiny hands and tools, she bypassed the lock. Click. The hangar door slid open just enough. Jake threw Leary her flight pack. She strapped in and jumped into the micro-escape pod, a pod no larger than a helmet. Flight system ready, the pod said in a soft voice. Jake smiled at her. Stay low. Go dark until you clear orbit. Leary nodded. You come too. I will, Jake said, but his eyes told her something else. Suddenly, bang! A shot hit the ground near Jake's foot. Stop right there, a guard shouted. Jake turned. Too late. He pushed the pod forward. Whoosh, it launched through the narrow chute and vanished into the sky. Leary screamed, Jake! But he was already turning to fight. Inside the pod, Leary's eyes filled with tears. She watched the security cams for as long as the signal stayed connected. Jake ran, dodged, fought, but there were too many. The screen went black. The signal was gone. Leary sat in silence. I shouldn't have left him, she whispered. But she remembered his words. You're not weak, Leary. You're more than what they think. She looked at the tiny necklace he gave her. I'll come back for you, she said. And next time, I'll be the big one. Back on the station, Jake sat in a cold, metal chair. His hands were tied, his face had a bruise. A commander stood in front of him. You helped the subject escape, that's treason. Jake stayed quiet. The commander leaned in. Where is the pod going? Jake smiled. Someplace better than here. You won't see her again. Jake chuckled. You don't know her. Far away, Leary's pod flew past satellites and debris. She followed the map Jake gave her, a secret route to an old rebel station. She didn't know who would be there, but she would find help. And she would return. Not as a test subject, not as a tiny alien to be caged, but as someone who had something worth fighting for. Please don't eat him. The rebel station floated quietly in deep space. Inside, Leary stood on a round table surrounded by alien leaders of all sizes and shapes. Some had wings, some had fur, some had sharp eyes that glowed like fire, but none were human. They listened closely as Leary spoke. I was taken by humans, but one of them saved me. She told them everything, how she was captured, how Jake treated her kindly, how he risked everything to help her escape. The oldest leader, a tall being with silver skin, narrowed his eyes. You say a human protected you? He asked. Yes, Leary said firmly. He was never cruel, never unkind. He broke the rules to free me. The room was silent. Then the silver-skinned leader stood. Then he must be protected. Bring him to us. Back on the human research station, Jake was being moved to a secure chamber. He limped. His hands were tied. A young officer whispered to the others, He helped that creature. He's a traitor. Jake said nothing, but in his heart, he still hoped. Hoped that Leary had made it. Suddenly, an alarm blared. Warning! Unauthorized ship entering orbit. Size small, speed high. The guards looked at each other. What is that thing? A glowing pod crashed through the upper level and landed hard, right in the middle of the hallway. The doors opened. Out stepped Leary, but she was different now. She wore a small flight suit. Her voice was clear. Her eyes were brave. And behind her were two tall alien guards from the rebel fleet. Get down, a human guard shouted. He raised his weapon. Leary jumped between the guard and Jake. Please don't eat him, she yelled. The hallway froze. The humans blinked. Eat him? The officer said, confused. Leary spread her arms. He's not a monster. He's my friend. If you harm him, you'll answer to me. The other alien stepped forward. We represent the Free Species Alliance. This man helped one of ours. We demand his release. The base commander arrived with more troops. "You can't make demands here," he growled. Leary stepped closer. "I was a scared little thing when you took me. But now I know who I am." She looked at Jake. "And I know who he is." She turned back to the commander. "If you harm him, then maybe humans really are monsters." The commander looked at Jake. Then at the rebels, then at Leary, and sighed. "Fine, take him, but don't bring him back." Later on the rebel ship, Jake sat on a soft chair, drinking warm broth. His wounds were being healed by a kind alien medic. Leary stood on the armrest beside him, smiling. "You came back," Jake said softly. She crossed her arms. "You saved me first." He chuckled. "I never thought I'd hear someone yell, 'Don't eat him,' to save me." She laughed too. "It worked, didn't it?" Jake nodded. "Yeah, it did." That night, as the ship flew through quiet stars, Leary sat by the window. Jake joined her. "What now?" he asked. "We show them," she said. "Show who?" "Everyone," Leary replied. "That tiny aliens and giant humans don't have to fear each other." She looked up. "Maybe monsters aren't real after all." Jake smiled. "Or maybe they are. But sometimes they're just misunderstood." Learning the truth. The ship landed softly on the forest moon. Warm, air flowed through the trees. Strange birds flew in the sky, singing softly. Leary stepped out first. She stood on her home soil again, small, strong, and changed. Behind her walked Jake, tall and quiet. His eyes scanned the green world with wonder. "Is this your planet?" he asked. Leary nodded. "Yes. My people live deep in the forest, hidden under the trees." Jake looked around. "It's beautiful." She smiled. "So are you?" He blinked. "I mean, thanks." Leary laughed. They walked into the forest together. Soon, glowing lights appeared between the trees. Tiny houses made of crystal and leaf shimmered above the ground. Guards spotted Leary and gasped. "Leary, is that a human with you?" Leary raised her voice. "Don't shoot, he's my friend." The guards looked confused, even afraid. But they lowered their weapons. Inside the grand hall, the elder council waited. Leary stood before them. They looked down at her. "You return after many moons," one said. "We feared you were gone." "I was captured," Leary said. "Taken by humans, but one of them saved me." The elders gasped. "You mean he didn't harm you?" She shook her head. "He protected me. He gave me food, safety, even friendship." One elder whispered, "That's not what we were told." Leary stepped forward. "That's why I came back." She looked around the hall. "For years we told stories, that humans were monsters, that they eat us, hurt us, destroy us." She pointed to Jake, who stood at the edge of the room. "But this one, he broke every rule his people had, just to help me." The room was silent. Leary continued, "I was afraid, but he taught me how to trust. He showed me music, machines, laughter, kindness." She looked at the children hiding behind a curtain. "I want our young ones to learn the truth, not fear." An old elder stood up. "I still remember the first human ship that landed here. It scared us. They took things without asking. Left scars in the forest. We never forgave them." Jake stepped forward now. "I'm sorry," he said. "Truly, some humans are cruel. But not all. Just like some of your kind might be cruel too." He looked at Leary. "She changed me too." The elders talked for a long time. At last, they made a decision. One elder turned to Leary and smiled. "You were small but brave. You left afraid, and came back strong. We will listen." They invited Jake to stay. As a guest. As a friend. Many weeks passed. Leary and Jake built a small home near the forest edge. Children came to visit. They laughed when Jake showed them tools and strange human snacks. Leary taught them to speak his language. Jake learned their songs. Together they started something new. Not just peace, but understanding. One day, as they sat under the stars, Leary looked up. I used to believe monsters were real. Jake asked. And now? She held his hand. Now I believe stories can lie, but truth always finds a way. He smiled. You were the brave one, not me. She grinned. You still scream at spicy food. Jake laughed. Okay, fair. Above, them two stars moved together across the sky, one small, one bright, traveling as one.